Hello, today I'm basically doing part 1 of the tutorial. Actually, I'm just going to go into here and I'm just going to show a video of this so far. And this is my part 1. I've actually messed up on the tutorial right here, I think. And I actually let me see if this works still. Yes, it's working. But when I messed up on this tutorial, I never recorded my voice at all because I actually turned off the voice of my headphones. So now I'm actually able to talk. So right here, I was kind of basically selecting the mask, putting out the different colors, taking the eyedropper tool by clicking Alt button or something like that with the brush tool. And I'm actually panning using the space bar, selecting the colors with Alt button or Alt key or so. And what I'm going to be doing is basically kind of shading basically. So I'm getting everything ready basically for this. And now I select basically one of my selection masks that I already put. I select that. And now this is the area basically of the selection mask I have selected specifically just for digital painting. Just to paint out certain area. And now I go from right here to the actual basically airbrush tool. And then I basically pause I think, this entire thing, because I wanted to make sure that the graphics tablet was completely on. And now basically, I was kind of going into here and kind of adding basically, I was kind of selecting the right color for what I'm going to do for the skin. Except I actually click the Alt button and then I select the main skin color for what I selected right there. And I actually on this selection right here, I accidentally clicked CTRS for save and by accident. I raised up the capacity. And now the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here and I'm going to raise up basically flat all the way up right there. And now I'm going to basically make a new layer on the bottom of this, as you can see, and add basically colors right there. So I could have a selection of colors so I can select so I don't ever lose my colors or so. And then I went down and I selected a darker shade of color. I put that right there at the bottom. And then I select an even darker shade of color. Put that right about there. And then the next tutorial I'm going to select a way more darker shade of color that I'm going to select. But first I select a move tool and I move that right about there, where it's close to the image. And now what I did is I went into on top of here and I select basically the actual color itself, an even darker shade of color I think, by double clicking or triple clicking on it on the box with the color, and I select a really dark color that I selected so I can edit. So usually it's like that basically. And now what I started to do was I started to lower down the capacity of this drawing to approximately around 25% or 20%. And then I started getting into painting the actual object right away. So I selected this second tone shading right about here, where my cursor is on, and then I started painting, or so. I kind of messed up on the last tutorial, so I had to basically re-record this tutorial and redo the voicing on this tutorial, because I didn't have my microphone on at the time, so I had to redo it. And now I added kind of like a shade of tone that's gonna go where it's gonna go I added a shade of tone of shadow where the shadow is supposed to be on a leg, where there's a dark source. And then I used a pan, and then I started rotating by clicking the pan tool. I clicked the spacebar tool, and then I started rotating. I actually moved these by accident, these boxes right here. And now I started shading on here, getting at the definite shading right here. So when I started selecting the shading, I started clicking the Alt key to click the eyedropper tool, and then I select some portions of the darker shading, and then I started blending the colors together basically with the Alt key. And then basically I actually select this color, and then I click the Alt key, and I added all the colors in to basically blend the shading together basically to get a natural blending look. And now I re-rotate that again basically to rotate the object. Alt basically click to select one of the colors, rotate again, drop down the size of the brush basically by lower down the size of the brush, I think. And now basically I kind of added a shadow basically toward where the feet lied basically. I added a shadow where there is a feet or the toes whatsoever. And then I rotated the object, and then I clicked the Alt button to select one of the colors. And then I raised up the flat to 40, and then I started painting where the shadow is gonna basically touch where the strap touches the leg. I started painting the actual shadow part right there. Like these were the straps, and then I painted the shadow on there. Getting all the straps with the shadow on it. And then I started doing basically the bow ties on the high heels. Started doing a bow tie shadowing for the leg or so. Finishing up the shadows for the legs. And then I'm just defining basically the shadow a little bit more to get the right depths on it. And then I think the next basically step, what I would do is kind of do more like the actual knees of the shadow. The shadows of the knees, I think. Or on top of, let me see what's next. Yeah, and then I started doing the shadows on top of here where the string meets the bikini, I think. And then I started rotating, scaling using the spacebar tool. The spacebar. I started rotating, scaling. Using spacebar again to rotate and scale. And then I think I added the shadow basically where the crease line that's going to indicate where the leg and the stomach side meets. I actually added the crease line right there. And then I started going on to doing the details on the knee basically. Getting the final details on the knee. Getting the details on the knee. And then I hit spacebar and rotate. And then I think I lowered down the capacity of the brush to 5% right about here. And then I started painting a little bit of dabs. Then I clicked the Alt key on my keyboard to select the eyedropper tool. To select the different layers. I hided the drawing basically. Right here, the drawing layer, I started hiding that. And then I started selecting each one of that. Clicking the eyedropper tool. And defining the shading a little bit more. And now I click the Alt key to select the light shading right here, and then I started adding the lighter shades on the knee basically to give it more of a light source. clicking the Alt key, I think. And then I started, I think, going over to the Alt key and clicking the darker shade of color right here. And then I started raising up, I think, the brush size and started adding basically the darker shade of color down to the leg, I think. Then I went down with the darker shade of color all the way down to the foot, I think. And then I started clicking the Alt key basically so I could blend the colors together. The Alt key basically to blend the colors together. Lower down the flat. Kind of experimenting with the different brushes at a certain time to see which one would work. And then I went with the Alt key, I think, to select basically the different shades of color. And then I started using the Alt key to blend, to select in a shade of color, and then I started blending the colors, the shades together to make more of a lighter shade. And then I blended all the colors together with the Alt key and the brush tool. Kind of blending all the colors together with the Alt key. Blending the different colors with the Alt key. And doing the... And now what I'm going to do is start taking a darker shade of tone of color, and I'm going to start doing the toes on this thing. So I hit pan and scale, and I rotate it a little bit to get the right depth, I think. And now what I started doing was the actual toes on the character. And then I kind of like define the shading on basically the toes itself. And now I recenter the rotation by hitting the space bar and clicking the red dot while I hit on it while I hit the space bar. Basically re-rotating the actual object, hitting the space bar. The space bar can pretty much be used to to scale, rotate, and change flip directions of an actual object if you hit the space bar. So that's like a shortcut key. It actually brings like the section all the way full to 100%. Actually here what I started doing was the actual knee basically, and getting more in depth with the shadowing and shading on the knee, I think. Then I started adding more depth in the shading by clicking the Alt key and just blending the colors together with the brush and Alt key. And then I click the Alt key to select a tone of color again. And then I started blending the colors together. And then I basically select a lighter shade of color to make the color more lighter, and then I lower down the capacity of the brush to about 5%, right about here. And then I started shading over the actual object. Actually, I think I raised up the capacity. I think even more. Actually, I raised it up down too low at the time, so I wanted to raise it up even higher.
Working?
Yeah, I'm working.
You're very focused, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I lowered down, and then I basically started to raise up the capacity to 20%, and I started to shade up the actual object itself. And then I basically started blending the colors together with the Alt key and with the brush keys to make the shading more lighter and more defined, I think. I think this program that I use is OpenCanvas 5.5, I think. So I'm kind of new to OpenCanvas, so still pretty good, I would say. Then I went with the spacebar and I started rotating it again. Going into depths of the shading. And then I started going into here and I started rotating this. And then I started adding shading more on the upper part of the leg, I think. And we're almost done. Just doing this very, very fast. And then I basically lowered down the capacity to 2 on this. And then I started going into here and I started to going into depths of the string, making the shadows more darker or more crisper seen. To make the shadows more darker, more go to the strings and make the string of the shadow of the string of the high heels more darker, so it can look more visible in long distance. And I started adding more shading basically in there. More depths and shading. Adding more of a darker tone. Raising up the brush size so I can add more shading to make the bottom part of that darker. And it's coming along pretty good. And then I start winning with the Alt key and selecting the lighter shader from the previous shade I had. And then I started painting right in the shadows between the strings of the high heels. Going into depths with more of the shading, making the shading more visible in front view. Then I started getting every single one of the areas. Then I started doing the plastic strap for the high heels, I think so. Yeah, there. And then I started doing that piece right there. Then I started increasing that and started doing all the other stuff. And started adding the layer for the actual gray background to see what's happening and see how it's going on. And then I started adding the shadow basically that's going to be used for the side right about there of the leg to add more depth. But I end up undoing all that shadow basically because it didn't look so good. Then I started basically going in depth and undoing all that shadowing, and just like the bottom part of this I started undoing the shadowing and I started redoing it again on the top. And then I started like go deselect, and then I started adding more of a line streak that goes right about there. And adding more dark colors for the actual like side of the knee. That didn't look very good, so I took that out and I undo all that. So I kind of undid all of that, I think, at the end. We're almost near the end of this picture. And then basically I started adding like more of a darker shading onto here to define out the pattern right, the knee of the object. And then I basically select this dark color right here, and I started doing the lines that goes right about here on the actual leg. But first I actually saved the object, and saved a lot. Try to see. We're almost done. And then I started clicking the pan tool to pan some of the objects right there. See how much we got done. And then I started doing a line streak that's going to go right about here on the leg. And that's what it looked like. I was trying to separate this dark leg from the gray shadowing. Kind of add bordering on here. Then I think I raised up the brush size, I think. Let me try to speed that up and show you the final process. And then I saved it, I think. And then I went into adjust to lower the contrast of the layer of the thing, like that. The brightness. Separate the object. And I guess the object was completely done, and that's what the actual leg looks like right there. It looks all like that, all completed like that. I actually hope you really enjoyed this tutorial a lot, and I really hope you liked my tutorial a lot, and I really hoped I helped you a lot with this actual skill on 3D, on digital painting, and I hope this tutorial will help you out in the distant future on future projects. And please subscribe. My name is Lance Brown, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Stay tuned to part 2 of this tutorial, or pretty much I'm going to name this pretty much part 1 of this tutorial. And stay tuned to part 1 of this tutorial. I hope you enjoy, and please subscribe.